Synthetic Babies versus God, Religious War Coming. Welcome back to School of Soul. I'm Adeline Atlas, 11 times published author, and today we're stepping directly into the spiritual collision point of this entire conversation, the coming war between synthetic reproduction and God. Because for the religious, the sacred, the prayerful, the intuitive, for anyone who believes that life is more than cells and chemicals, this isn't just a scientific advancement. This is a direct challenge to creation itself. It's not just a disruption of biology. It's a rebellion against the divine order. And that kind of rebellion always provokes a spiritual response. What's coming next isn't just a debate between believers and scientists. It's going to be a global spiritual divide. Because when humans start building life in labs, the question is no longer just can we? It becomes should we? Who gave us that right? And more urgently, what exactly are we making? Let's begin with the premise. Every major religion, Christianity, Islam, Judaism, Hinduism, Buddhism, recognizes that life begins through an act of divine breath, divine will, or karmic alignment. Even in traditions that don't name a single god, the act of conception is seen as something guided, not random. A soul chooses its incarnation. A life arrives when it is spiritually assigned. Parents are seen as vessels. The womb is sacred. The moment of entry is aligned with destiny. But when science bypasses all of this, when embryos are made from skin cells, edited by software, assembled in sterile chambers and raised in machines, the belief system that holds soul and body together begins to collapse. In the Christian tradition, for example, life is sacred because it comes from God. Jeremiah 1:5 says, "Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you." That's not just poetic. That's theological foundation. The soul is known, chosen, and placed. The womb is not a flaw, it's a temple. And God, not man, forms life. So when synthetic embryos come into the picture, created by technicians, patented by corporations, and monitored by artificial intelligence, the religious question becomes unavoidable. If man creates life through artificial means, is God still involved? If there is no womb, no spark, no lineage, and no spiritual contract, does the soul enter? Or are we birthing bodies without breath? Religious scholars are already debating this. The Vatican has made clear statements against embryo experimentation, against surrogacy, against genetic editing, and against any reproductive method that separates the conjugal act from conception. In Islam, there are fatwas against third-party reproduction and strong ethical concerns around cloning. In Judaism, life is revered from conception, and artificial life raises questions about lineage, identity, and halachic personhood. Across traditions, one thing is consistent. Life is not to be manufactured. And yet science is moving forward without waiting for theological input. Decisions are being made in labs, not in temples. The definitions of human, person, parent, and soul are being rewritten without the guidance of the sacred. And this silence won't last. The moment a synthetic human embryo is brought to full term and born, whether through a pod or an artificial womb, the war begins. Religious groups will say this is an abomination, a soulless creation, a false life, a mockery of God. And secular scientists will say this is progress, a solution to suffering, a triumph of reason over superstition. And in between those two worlds will be millions of confused, overwhelmed people who don't know what to believe. Because how do you baptize a baby with no origin? What prayer do you say over a being that came from no union, no family, no pain? Is it human in the same way? Is it part of the soul chain? Does it carry karma? Can it receive blessing? Can it sin? Can it forgive? We don't have the language for these beings yet, but we will. The moment the first synthetic child is born, theologians and mystics around the world will be forced to confront a reality they never prepared for. Life created without God. And that opens a terrifying door. Because if we create life without the divine, we will also create ethics without the divine, morality without the divine, identity without the divine. And when that happens, what stops us from defining worth through function? Through performance? Through programming? The world is already softening the ground for this. Watch how media frames synthetic embryos and artificial wombs. They don't say, playing God. They say, solving infertility. They don't say genetic engineering. They say, eliminating disease. They don't say creating a post-human race. They say building a better future. It's all a language trick, a spiritual anesthetic. Conditioning people to think that love and lab work are the same thing. But we know better. We know that life is not just biology, that the soul is not just electricity, that the breath of life is not something you can program into a CRISPR sequence or upload through an umbilical pump. Life is mystery. Life is assignment. Life is sacred responsibility. And when you remove those elements, what's left may walk, talk, and look human, but something crucial will be missing. There are people who believe that these synthetic children will still receive souls, that if the intention is pure, the spirit will enter. But intention is not the only factor. Environment matters. Energy matters. Vibration matters. And when a being is formed in a room full of machines, overseen by technicians who don't pray, raised in silence, and scanned for defects like a product line. The question becomes less about whether a soul can enter, and more about whether it would want to. And that's where we hit the deepest fracture. What if we're creating bodies that are spiritually vacant? Beings that look and sound like us but are not us? What if these aren't just babies? They're vessels. Empty, programmable vessels, waiting to be filled by what? If a divine soul doesn't enter, what energy does? That's where religion and metaphysics meet. Because every culture has warned of shells, soulless ones, clones, and decoys. Beings that mimic life but carry no divine signature. And now we're building them ourselves. This is where the spiritual war truly begins. Not between science and religion, but between soul and system. Because the system wants life to be measurable, editable, monetizable. It doesn't care if that life is aligned with divine timing, karmic balance, or ancestral integrity. It just wants control. And the people of spirit, those who still believe in breath over code, in prayer over programming, will have to choose. Not just what kind of life to support, but what kind of life to resist. And that resistance won't be theoretical. It'll be legal, institutional, parental. At some point, there will be schools full of synthetic-born children. Churches will have to decide whether to bless them. Governments will have to decide whether they're citizens. Activists will argue about clone rights. And spiritual communities will fracture into those who accept the new species and those who don't. The question is no longer, are we playing God? The question is, have we already replaced him? And if we have, what have we summoned instead? Because if you remove the creator from creation, the void does not stay empty. Something else fills it. Something else takes ownership. And that something may not be neutral. It may not be benevolent. It may not even be human. This is not just science. It is spiritual warfare disguised as innovation. And the front line is not in the lab, it's in the womb, or what used to be the womb. And now we face the biggest question of all. When you remove the soul from birth, what is left to protect? Because if synthetic life becomes the new standard and divine life becomes the risk, then we are not just in a war of religion. We are in the final battle over what it means to be human at all. Hi, I am Adeline Atlas, 11 times published author, and SOS, School of Soul has a brand new series, the AI and Future Technology series. Look, you know the world is changing. And no, it's not going back to normal. Normal is over, and what's coming next is beyond anything we were prepared for. The School of Soul, AI and Future Technology series includes 319 videos on 1. The Download Society, How Data Has Replaced Destiny. 2. Predictive Future. Your next moves aren't random, they're forecasted. 3. Social Credit Systems. The behavioral economy now governs access. 4. Hive mind. Synthetic telepathy and collective algorithmic control. 5. Nanobots inside you. Medical, military, and programmable intrusions. 6. Grief tech. AI-fueled digital resurrection and simulated comfort. 7. Uploading your mind, consciousness transfer, and data-based identity. 8. Deep fakes plus AI clones. The replication of reality and identity theft. 9. Quantum humans. The merger of biology with quantum systems. 10. Digital afterlife, where your data goes when you die. 11. Resurrection science, reviving life through synthetic methods. 12. Immortal science, the end of death as we know it. 13. Longevity science, gene editing, anti-aging, and bio-upgrades. 14. Designer babies, engineered perfection before birth. 15. Artificial wombs, birth decoupled from the female body. 16. 3D printing, printing organs, limbs, and even humans. 17. The humanoid era, the rise of synthetic beings among us. 18. Legacy humans, the slow phase-out of unmodified analog people. 19. Smart cities, algorithmic environments that watch and decide. 20. Cloud-based societies, citizenship without borders or bodies. 21. Hackable humans, emotion, memory, and behavior under code. 22. Biometric scanning, your body is your password and your prison. 23. Sex tech, intimacy reprogrammed by machines. 24. Extinction of gender, fluidity, deletion, and design of identity. Every topic is fully explored with real-world technologies, patents, case studies, ethical analysis, and future forecasts. These aren't someday discussions. This is already happening. Join the SOS School of Soul Vault to overstand the future before it's implemented on you.